Hello and welcome to a really cool build using off-rips. Like any woodworker, I have a bunch of off-rips and I was able to process through and cut to rough length this group. They all came from 3/4 stock, so all I had to do was sand the ripped edge to prepare for joining. And with the help of this quickly made jig, I could randomly sort through and group for joining into new 3/4 stock. These rips, they all varied in width, anywhere from like 3/32 on up to around 3/8. I only paid attention not to put the same color next to each other. I wanted a very random color arrangement. And here we're getting ready to glue these up. With the use of parchment paper, we're able to use a table and another board and clamp these loosely so we can keep our 3/4 desired stock and not have boards stray up and down when we press the laminate together. Once these boards have cured for a full 24 hours, we'll continue on over to the drum sander to clean up the edge for a laminate. But before we laminate, we're going to want to rip these to width and cut them to length. To figure out our final width, I know that we are going to do 24 staves at 14 degrees. So I have a full-scale drawing, including the saw curve, drawn at 14 degrees. I can then take my material and figure out my rip width. So we had a rough length, and we got to trim these up just a little bit so we can match up our veneer stock. I decided to go with a white veneer on this so we can accent our staves. So with this white veneer laminated on our 12 boards, we're ready to turn into 24 pie-shaped staves. We're going to do this on the table saw with the blade set at 14 degrees and just over halfway through the thickness of our material. I'm able to guide the second half smoothly across the fence without any interruption. And so here we are, all 24 staves. We're going to further split these staves one more time as our project has two different tangential arrangements. The first tangential arrangement is a simple single cone tangential on the left. The second is a double conical tangential arrangement, easily described as a hyperboloid. And my apologies, folks, but the glue up on the hyperboloid, I accidentally pressed take a picture button instead of record, but I like this project so much I had to share it with everybody. So here's the glue up on the simple single cone tangential arrangement. These are 24 staves at 14 degrees and not 15 degrees. So this leaves a gap in the outer perimeter when stood straight up. That gap is closed up by splaying the staves in a tangential arrangement. I then use a cone and a ball to keep the shape on the inside and inner pressure. With a board on the top, we can keep our staves parallel, top and bottom. And then with one more hose clamp on the top, we can apply exterior pressure on our blank. Now with the use of some scrap wenge, we are going to make a couple of rings for this project. And with that goofy triangle cutoff you saw in the previous scene, finial with that. This first ring we are going to use as the foot. We're going to repeat this glue up process, make one more larger ring, in which we're going to designate as the lid to this project. So with our segments not coming to a full point in our foot, we're going to glue up a piece of bloodwood onto a waste block, which we're going to make into a plug to plug our foot. And with the glue cured for about an hour, I figured it was safe to go ahead and flatten one side of our foot ring and mount it to a waste block, which is in turn mounted onto a faceplate. And we're having glue problems here. Skip forward. There we go. So now we're just going to give a real quick review of process of assembly. We have our foot that we're going to plug with bloodwood, our hyperboloid with the smaller cone going down, and then our lid with a finial. Ta-da! And here is the plug to the foot of our vessel. We're going to separate this plug with the use of a parting tool off of our waste block. I hope that you guys are more amused by this than that little yellow dude on my shirt. You don't seem to appreciate this very much. But here is a small pilot hole that we're going to pop through the waste block. That little pilot hole serves two purposes. One is to relieve the air pressure when we plug this ring. And second is to center up the bottom of vessel when we go to remove the waste block. And moving on to our hyperboloid so we can prepare it to get mounted to the lathe. We're going to start by removing this layer of excess epoxy on the upper larger cone, exposing bare wood, followed by shaping a plug, which is mounted to a faceplate. Once we like this fit, my shop is a little bit chilly this evening, so we're going to heat these two objects up with the use of a heat gun. That way we get proper bondage when we go to use our hot glue. With plenty of hot glue applied to both sides, we're going to bring up the tailstock to easily center this blank from top to bottom on the lathe. And once the hot glue is cured, we're ready to move on to shaping this. I thought up this project in order to stimulate the mind's primitive instinct of pattern recognition. With the color arrangement being totally chaotic, there is a definite pattern of assembly. You'll have to let me know in the comments what this does for you. With the use of the steady rest, we're going to go ahead and core out between our upper and lower cone, and then on to hollowing this bottom globe. With a finish applied to the inside bottom of this and bare wood exposed on the mortise joint, we are ready to form the foot. Here you'll see a concave to the inside of our foot. This is to match the arc on the inside of the globe at the bottom. We'll then mark out what we want for our tendon size and creep into this slowly as we want a nice firm fit. And we won't go full depth of tendon either. Once we like the fit, we'll bring the tendon to full depth and give the lower portion a shape. With a finish applied and bare wood exposed, we're getting ready to join this. On this shallow tenon and mortise joint, I'm giving a horizontal rim also. This will be just added strength to this glue joint, means we only have 1/4 of an inch worth of joinery on this tenon and mortise. That 1/8 inch lip will give us much added strength. The epoxy we're using is a 5-minute epoxy to work with. Cures fully in 1 hour, making this easily to come back to in the same day. With the finish cured on this bottom section, we can use pipe cleaners to remove any excess wet epoxy off of this joint. And then we'll shape this upper section to our final likings. And we're going to remove this waste block so we can hollow it out. With the finish applied to the upper section of this, we're going to flip it around and get rid of this waste block. Right there's the use of that pilot hole to center it up into the coal jaws and keep it steady while we process removal. Then with a finish applied to the foot, we are going to do one more step. I have gotten some new medallions that I'll be putting in the bottom of my pieces. And on to the lid. Seems simple enough, but man, it was really taxing. We're going to start with the live center on the tailstock with it mounted into the coal jaws. To get a better mount, we have a dovetail tenon, which we're going to switch over into the normal jaw. From this point, I want to make a mortise to accept the finial, but I'm worried about the Forstner bit grabbing onto that epoxy and things going awry. So we're going to pull off some of this excess epoxy here in the center of this, followed by a 1/2 inch Forstner bit to form our mortise. After which we're going to go ahead and form the top of this, leaving a large flat ring around the mortise. So on the lathe goes the finial blank, and with a dovetail tenon on that, we're going to flip it around so we got a nice, secure, proper grip. And we're going to form a tenon to go in the top of our upper globe. Again with the 5-minute epoxy for working time, cure time in 1 hour. This large lip on the tenon mortise, horizontal lip, is just for added security when it comes to forming the lid. Now we're going to do the same thing as the lower globe. We're going to shape the outside and hollow it out. Now that we got finish applied to the inside of our upper globe, we are going to take that off the lathe. And on the lathe is going to go the coal jaws containing the ring for the lid. We're going to core out a porthole so we'll be able to feel and look up inside the upper globe. Now we're going to give this a mark where we want our tenon. Double check that. Followed by a concaved shape to match the inside arc of our upper globe. Now we'll form our tenon with a good fit. We're going to apply a finish and glue this on with the same 5-minute epoxy. After cured, we're going to free up the coal jaws and flip this around onto the headstock. Now it's time to shape the lid. Okay, so now we're down to our final flip around here. We got a finish on the inside bottom of our lid. We're gonna put this into the coal jaws, keeping it centered with the original mount. Once we like it, we're going to remove the grip off of our finial blank and finish this bad boy up. Well, I want to thank you folks for joining me. This has been a really fun project and probably one of my finer builds. I love the way this onion-shaped finial turned out. Really brought out the grain in it. The whole top being totally hollowed. It's hard to see, I'm sure. Anyways, it's really cool. The chaotic color pattern that came out on the vessel in the top is just wicked, even though there's a pattern of assembly. And to have that hollowed out all the way to the bottom is really cool. You can stick your hand in there with a finger gripping that bottom and hold it with one hand. It's pretty cool. New medallions that I'll be putting on my pieces. Thank you again. Until next time, you all be safe out there. Take care.